So, okay. Well, let me see. What should we do next? I think that was all of it for our questions. Should we kind of go to an open discussion then, or what would you guys like to do?
I think we should go to open discussion. You're talking
Okay.
about lasers. I just got a new laser in to the lab. It is a. Let me go get it actually.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, so we will go into open discussion. And let me see. I'm going to step away from the computer for just a moment. I'll put it on mute. So anybody who wants to unmute themselves, guys, just
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, and thank you as well, Jeremy. Today was amazing. I was a little nervous because we changed our format, but yeah, absolutely amazing today. Absolutely amazing. So
The helium neon laser that Jeremiah recommended we pick up for just give us a very clean beam and dot for experiments to see if there's any deflection. Jeremiah, are you there? Check this out.
Yes, sir, I am. I did not realize that you had that in, but I'm very pleased to see it.
Okay, here it is.
That's awesome. Have you tested the power supply yet?
It all works.
Oh, that's fantastic. Did you notice just how perfectly round that beam is on the wall really far away?
Yeah, it is a very small, tight beam.
So now we can truly test some of those magnet deflection experiments and see what we're looking at. And we have a much better beam profile for doing electromagnetic tests too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's not a very powerful laser, but that's not really what we're going for. We're just going for the small dot.
Yeah, you don't actually want high power because it's going to just drown out the camera's CCD when you're trying to actually videotape the thing or photograph how the dot moves if you do have deflection taking place. With this, you'll be able to see very clearly without totally blasting the camera. If that dot moves at all, you'll see it pixel for pixel.
Yeah, it also has some cool mounting ports, so that would help us mount it to whatever surface.
That is awesome, dude.
All right.
That is awesome.
It also has this little cover at the end, so if you want to shut off the beam without powering it down, you can flip that thing and it shuts off the beam.
Yeah, it's never a bad idea to have a safety shutter. I also do like the giant electromagnet in the background. That's pretty slick.
Yeah, this is the coil we wound. Jeremy came down here and helped with it. It was really an all hands on deck sort of job to get that thing done.
Too bad it's so encased in the framework. I mean, it's nice and strong like that, but you can't quite see the beauty of it. That is if it's beautiful underneath.
I first need to pour the epoxy on it and figure out how we're going to cover it so that the epoxy just doesn't pour straight out.
Oh, I see. I thought it was cast already, but it's not yet, eh?
No, it's not yet cast. I'm still working on how am I going to do this. There was a suggestion to use like a thin saran wrap, which I think is what I'm going to go with. I need to go pick up saran wrap that would or plastic wrap that would fit this size and then sort of shove it in there properly and make sure I get a watertight seal. Because if I mix up everything and then there's a hole and there's a leak, then you kind of just wasted an entire batch of epoxy if I don't fix it in time. So again, it's the kind of job that you really want enough people so that you can fix any errors right away. So this may have to wait a little bit until I have an assistant down here at the lab.
Yeah, no problem. That won't be too tough.
There should be around over 300 turns on this coil, so we'll get some pretty nice impulses.
Yeah, not bad at all. It's definitely going to take a higher voltage to cram into that coil. I like the angle. It's easier to see from the side. But yeah, given the inductance, you're going to have to hit a pretty high voltage into that sucker in order to get enough current through it. That's the, which gauge wire is that?
That's the 13.5 gauge wire.
Perfect. Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Well, what else do you have going on at your lab?
Well, I am now time testing the dot product disc. I've got it all insulated. The thing came out of the oven, looks beautiful, trimmed it up. And so I just charged it up to about 20,000 volts. Let me see, my stopwatch says now, it says 1 hour and 1 minute ago. So after about 4 hours, I will give it a discharge test, see how many microcoulombs of energy were stored in it, and then compare that number to my previous default check where it was instantly charged and discharged. So hopefully it hasn't leaked any charge off, and then we'll know that it's capable of storing that energy for a long period of time, which is pretty much a thumbs up, good to go for assembly of the next Van Dijk static displacement field drive.
Oh, very cool. Oh, we're also being reached out to by a documentary filmmaker who is interested in making a film on anti-gravity. Tom Valone. You might be expecting a phone call from him. Tom, are you there? I don't know if you can hear us, but I told him to reach out to Tom because Tom should be based in Washington, D.C., I believe. Also, we have who is that guy who works in Washington as a lobbyist?
Not sure.
There's a UFO lobbyist. Integrity research. There's paradigm research. Oh, there's so many of them.
Yeah, I'm familiar with integrity research.
Yeah, there's integrity research is Tom Valone.
Right.
And then there's
Camera's off. You can come in.
who's the
Back. This isn't your guy, but I'm friends with Robert Kvyat that does the Discovery channel, and he did all the UFO videos, and we go around the US filming and all that. If you want, I could have a chat with him and see if he wants to put a documentary together of what you guys are working on.
This is somebody who's worked for the Discovery Channel and the Science Channel as a executive producer for some of their documentaries, and he's doing it more of a freelance method. But you know, anyone who's interested in doing a documentary, you know, we're all ears, because this isn't just about the technology. If we discover the technology here and then it doesn't go anywhere, it was a complete waste of time. We need to make sure that the masses know about this, and that the technology falls into the right hands and gets taken up to actually building a full-size craft, which is the...
Yeah, but Robert Kvyat's freelance now. He did the Discovery Channel, and he sometimes works with a guy that go around looking about, is the Yeti true or false, or is this true or false? Every now and again, who's a YouTuber, but Robert Kvyat's like heavily involved in like UFO stuff, and but not trying to disprove it. He's like absolute believer and goes around trying to prove it. So I think if you look his name up, Robert Kvyat, you'll see who he is. Might be something or nothing, but it might be worth having a chat with him. But he's very well connected.
Hey, Jeremiah.
Oh yeah, we definitely would be interested. Go ahead, Ziggy.
What's up, sir? I can hear you.
Did you say something about building actual anti-gravity spacecraft?
Let me take a look at you. Yeah, okay, good. Your video isn't on, but even still, your bandwidth is just unfortunately terrible, which is really unfortunate. You asked, are we actually intending to build an anti-gravity spacecraft? Is that what you asked?
Did you say something? I mean, would you like to, or you know?
Oh, I mean, if we could, we would. If we could build one, if we knew enough to build one now, we would already be constructing one as we speak. So, absolutely.
So, and you know what? I have actually a very easy design for anti-gravity craft. But would you consider supplying the cables from the ground first?
Oh, I mean, we don't mind to test this thing if it's tethered. If it requires external power because we can't put power on board for some particular reason, although you'll find it's actually a lot easier to put power on board than you might think.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So listen.
Yeah, no problem.
So
no problem being tethered. If it floats, it floats, right, Ziggy?
That's right. That's right. So you know, if you're interested, I have a very simple design, but of course, this is based on based on the assumption that our experiment will produce some decent results, right?
Right. So first we test your baby space drive, and I'm really looking forward to that. I really want to see what happens when we actually do stick something like 200,000 volts in the tiny amount of space that we're intending to stick that power. I've been thinking about how I actually want to get that voltage in there, and then extract out the probe, because obviously, I don't want to rotate the power supply with this entire thing. That seems to be ridiculous. So I'm thinking that there's probably going to be a long tube-like entry port that runs along the outside of the cylinder, that sort of this long wire with a exposed end goes into, and that way we can pull out the electrified probe and leave the entire thing charged, but the distance of ionization path is too long for it to effectively discharge. Either way, we'll figure it out. But it's a lot of voltage in a really tiny area, and with a field that's effectively up to 65,000 Gauss. Well, yeah, it should be fun. If that doesn't prove the principle, I don't know.
I think it should be sufficient to produce easily observable results. Hey, Jeremiah, I'm totally, I'm totally convinced that it will work. But how big would you like to make this first anti-gravity spacecraft?
Well, honestly, my personal preference has always been to develop a small personal pod-like craft. Just a one-seater, That way, if it goes completely catastrophically wrong, only one person has to go down with the craft. But anyways, that's a proof of concept principle, and we've all been promised flying cars, so of course I want one for myself, and I'd start with building that.
Oh, I see. So you would go immediately for a manned version as opposed to unmanned, right?
Yeah, I'd want to build something small that the risk is only limited to one person at a time.
But we could start from just a craft smaller without a person.
Oh, I'd be down to build a drone. I'd be very down to build a drone, a radio system. Absolutely. That would be sort of the ultimate proof of concept. Heck, if we had that, we could just go do a TED Talk about it. Notify the world. Hey, look at this.
Before some... Yeah, exactly. The TED Talk would be fantastic with the drone. And and before somebody risks health, we test the drone first, right?
Right, it's exactly all about the, hey, it actually works. It exists, right? It either works or it doesn't.
Cheaper and easier, right? Yes. So, from my side, if we have at least 4,000 RPM and we have this 200 kilovolts, there will be easily observable movement, honestly, I have no doubt. Actually, maybe stronger than we expect.
Yeah, this will be really interesting. With all the laser beam experiments too, we'll get to try that out.
Yeah. So when do you think we could give it a try? No rush, but just ask me.
So just to kind of give you a time frame. So the magnets are in. I've been playing around with bearings that I think I can trust. I'm trying to locate an all stainless steel low magnetic bearing, something that I can put some better lubricant in or something like that, where it's not going to be extremely screwed with by the fact that it's in directly one of the poles of an extraordinarily strong magnetic field. So that would be the goal, is to find a bearing that is capable of operating under the flux intensity of this magnet that it's being attached to, and get those bearings as close to the rotor as possible. So once we get that set, it's just a matter of rotating it, hooking up a motor either directly or via a belt drive to that thing, and then we can do the basic magnet test, the unenergized non-capacitor magnet test, while aligning it parallel with the surface of Earth, and then measuring its mass on a small type of either pendulum system or a hanging wire suspension system.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to let everyone in just a second, Ziggy. So everyone knows, for future podcasts, I learned a lot about podcasting, and like the best microphone on the market for the price right now is probably the Shure MV7. So if you are like Ziggy and you need to upgrade your audio set up so that we can hear you without sounding like you're broadcasting from the UFO itself, it would, yeah, this would
How
be
do you know?
we can just hear you, man. It sounds like you're like blipping in and out. It sounds like you're broadcasting from the Zeta Reticuli star system or something. Because
You know, if I could jump in really quick also, you'd probably want
There's
to do a
gravitational waves. There's just too many gravitational waves right now.
yeah.
I just got on the I just got on my UFO.
I posted that microphone in the chat so that people who want to do future conferences will know that's a good microphone.
You know, let me also post the speedtest.net. I think that's also really valuable.
Yeah, because sometimes you can sometimes you need to upgrade your bandwidth or your cable or internet service so that it works better for upload and streaming. That might be an issue too. It might just be dropping periodically because of that. But it does this. I view these things as historic, what we're doing here. So I just want like people in future generations, when they have to go back and do the research on, you know, how anti-gravity became a real thing, because people believed in it and didn't give up on it, that they are watching these. And I don't want, the worst thing we want is bad audio on the historical record. So.
Yeah. If I could jump in terms of the speed test, and because I do a lot of work online, the way, in fact, here, let me mute you out for just a sec, Zeggy. I'll bring you back in. Sorry, he's getting some background noise. So it could be the way things are configured as well. Some of the common things to look for, if you go to speedtest.net, if you're below 30 megabits per second, you may experience some issues. Usually your upload speed is significantly lower than your download. I would say that anything below about 45 used to be the standard, right? And this is almost 10 years ago. That was the standard for cable modem. Everybody kind of took it after that. Comcast and Cox and all the big ones were about 45 megabits per second. Anything below 30, you may experience some issues with video conferencing and stuff like that. So again, do speedtest.net. You may also look at microphones. Not all microphones are the same, as Jeremy has kind of pointed out. There's actually, when it comes to computer mics, there's actually more going on behind the scenes. For instance, if my video is up, I don't know if you guys can see mine. I'm using the Blue Yeti. This is the older version. They still make these. These are really popular. The hardware for it is, I believe, 8-bit instead of 16-bit, or 16 instead of 32, or something like that. Also, the kilohertz for some of them may not align with what your computer wants. You can adjust all of that stuff in the settings on your computer, but most of us don't want to. It's a nightmare to do. So usually spending a little bit more for a good mic, is better. I've had good luck with the Blue Series.
The Shure MV7 is about $250, and then but really the preamp is where you want to spend the money, if you want to spend the money, because the preamp's what's going to what you're plugging that mic into, and you has to have I believe phantom powered to run a condenser mic. So that's like, it's an investment, but if you're going to be doing a lot of these, and believe me, I went to Guitar Center and they're sold out of these things now because of all the people with COVID and everything going on. There's so many people starting up podcasts and buying these to do this. So it's actually a shortage right now, pretty much. But they've gotten over that now. There was a shortage, I will say. Actually, correct that. There was a shortage about a month or two ago, but they've yes. But anyways, that's a side note, so people can know about that.
Well, no, Jeremy, I think this is really valuable info, and I think a lot of us overlooked that. Another thing, this is an area I've noticed some folks have trouble with, and they don't always realize. Actually, there's two things. One of them is you want to have a good Wi-Fi router. You may have one that's built into your cable modem. If there is, you want to make sure that you have a password on it so people aren't leeching off you. Let me see, I use Netgear wireless routers, Wi-Fi routers, and I actually use a separate Wi-Fi router and cable modem, because the ones that come through modem usually aren't that good. Wi-Fi is a real issue for some folks because the signals bounce off the metal in their house frame or things like that. So Wi-Fi is unpredictable. On my PC, I actually use an Ethernet cable still. I'm kind of old school, but you still get higher bandwidth, better quality, and you don't get dropouts. So that's one thing. Another thing is, if you do have a separate Wi-Fi router and cable modem, you want to make sure that you get those probably about 5 to 6 feet apart. This is something that's undocumented, but when those are too close together, they interfere with each other. Your Wi-Fi router can actually knock out your cable modem.
Like something to include that not wireless but wired connection in a router is preferred because it will give you a faster connection wired.
Yeah, wired directly rather than go through a Wi-Fi always. If you're on a laptop or yeah. So these tips are important, man, because it took me a while to learn these things, and it's really all about experience. And you'll go through a whole bunch of different products before you'll find one that actually is the right price and stuff. And you'll go through a lot of reviews and stuff. It's hard to get that information sorted out. So it's kind of good to learn from the pros, which is what I did to find that MV7 mic. After I already bought this $400 AKG, I find out there's a superior podcast microphone that's made just for this, and it would have been $150 cheaper. Well, hindsight, like a guy in the chat said he already bought a Audio Technica mic, and so yeah.
We actually spent a whole afternoon getting a wire connection here into the lab for the live stream. So actually had to drill holes through the wall, and Jeremy and Jeremiah were helping me out to put a wire in directly from the modem because we're having Wi-Fi problems. So we're not going to have any of those problems again when we're doing live streams.
Well, one thing to think about is how much time you spend online, right? And I don't want to be that guy, but my grandfather always said, spend the money on the things that you use, right? And the more you use it, the more it's worth spending on it. So his thing was, don't waste money on stuff that you're never going to use that goes in a drawer that you forget you have. And so when it comes to stuff like computer equipment, I always try and keep that in mind. Is, in my case, I usually don't do the gold standard. I usually try and find the silver standard where you get that best price value comparison, but I know a lot of other folks who, it's one thing to cut corners, but sometimes with computer stuff, if you cut too many corners, then you end up in kind of a world of hurt, and it ends up wasting more time than your time is worth,
But yeah, and then you need the headphones as well, because it will pick up these condenser mics are really sensitive. So it helps to have headphones so they don't pick up ambient sound. And yeah, other than that, sound. How about sound for acoustic levitation? Anyone done any experiments with acoustic levitators? I know some guy some guy I met built one. He showed me all the pictures of the thing he built with to do acoustic levitation. I always thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Jeremy, I actually did putz around with acoustic levitators. This is what I ended up doing, is filling this transducer here. It's a 50 watt transducer being ran on a 100 watt board. And so you can see I filled the center with lead, just sort of create a flat plane. And then this you can resonate against a flat piece of glass, metal, or anything else that has a nice even parallel surface. And if you space it correctly, you'll build up standing waves, and you can pick up little pieces of foam or glass or sand or whatever and stick it in those nodes and antinodes, and you'll be able to trap them right there, and they'll sort of buzz up and down because the regulation of this board is garbage. But if it was nice and easy, they'd hold themselves perfectly still and they'll levitate. You can stick almost anything in there that's light enough, and it'll grab it.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
I also want to use that to drive this, this piece of metallic glass.
Oh yeah. We got to etch that with some shapes and then see if we can't trap sound and light.
Have you guys?
Go ahead.
Have you heard of this new app called Clubhouse? It's basically just audio only rooms where people talk about different topics. Has very good fidelity audio. It's like a new social media app, and nothing is recorded, so you can just join these different chat rooms. And I was in there the other night listening to people talking about quantum computing, and they have a whole bunch of rooms on space. They got NASA astronauts there, people who are working on the Mars rover, like really interesting people that are just sharing their story, and everyone's listening. And you can get up on the podium and share your thoughts as well. It's a really cool app that just started. I know, Jeremiah, you thought you were interested in it as well.
Yeah, I am interested in it. I wouldn't say that nothing's recorded, since no such agency, I'm sure, records every conversation there. But regardless of that, it does sound like a great chance to bounce ideas off of other actually alive human beings, which is usually a good idea when you're trying to get somebody to sort of BS check you to see if you're totally out there.
Yeah, so I was thinking of starting a channel on anti-gravity or alternative propulsion, and see if we can get this out to a more general crowd. I started a little room. I got like 100 people in it at one point, and I was trying to explain dynamic nuclear orientation, and I got a couple people on the stage that kept on trying to get me to simplify stuff a little bit more and more. It kind of like puts you in a position of talking to the average, Joe the plumber. You got to explain it to him too.
Right. We all need to get good at doing that, because ultimately they're the people that have to sort of take over this stuff, and they've got to build the craft and all of that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be the ones setting the parameters on the machine, and they'll push the button, put the metal in.
Well, yeah, space isn't going to mine itself, and the craft aren't going to build themselves, but somebody's got to design them first. And, we're trying. Well,
I'm really excited by what we're doing with YouTube. I mean, Jeremy is the big dog in the house in terms of YouTube, right? Every time we do one of these sessions, he gets thousands of viewers. And then I'm also putting them up on American Antigravity and the new APEC channel. And we're picking up, hundreds more per each session. But the thing that's exciting to me also is it's out there in multiple places for posterity, and just the ideas that we're generating, we're producing and documenting, right? And one of the experiences that I've had with American Antigravity, and I know Jeremy's probably had the same because he's been doing videos for over 10 years, is that people will see this material and put it to use, and it may not come directly back to you for years, maybe even decades, but it's out there, and it's changing minds, and it's inspiring people. For me, that's exciting. It's just getting the material out there, and although it can be a little scary because, it goes out there and you see the views, but you may not get feedback, right?
Sean just mentioned if we keep this up, we might get sponsors, which would be exciting. I noticed today we had somebody from the media was in the crowd listening quietly. I think it was, I posted it in the Falcon Space chat, his name, but he has a media channel related to, UFOs and the paranormal kind of stuff. But we're getting out there, and hopefully we'll have more mainstream media coming in here as well and reporting on us and taking this story mainstream. I know Jeremy Rys was just on Tim Pool, which is as mainstream as we got so far. And of course we had Nick Pope, and he did a shout out for us when he was on the Ancient Aliens podcast the other night. I slipped him a note in the questions to make sure he mentioned us. So yeah, we're definitely getting out there, and hopefully we'll get some sponsors one day, and we'll be able to bring it all together.
Wonderful. Well, guys, should we wrap things up for this evening?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing before we close up. And they said that, back when you started doing this in 2002, I think it was true that we didn't see anything come around. It took like 10 years to really a decade to get a lot of those early ideas out there with Pod Klitnov and John Hutchison and some of these other guys, Searle and some of those other guys, to kind of almost like a way I look at it is breaking the ice in some ways for these other future experiments to come along. But that's kind of how it all started. But I think like what we're doing with this conference, it's already, like I said, it's already taking off on and taking on a mind of its own. The amount of people I've gotten on in my inbox, I've been writing emails and busy responding to emails for the past 3 days since I was on that podcast podcast on Monday, and it's been insane with the amount of outreach that we've had. I think that those days of waiting, years for results is over. I think that people are hungry and ready for this now more than they ever were, and it's going to take off in the next just couple of months. I've been already in talks with a bunch of different people who've contacted me. I have a bunch of ideas flowing right now because since I got back from Tim Pool's, they got a stream house. This is like a big thing that's going on now. It's taking over a lot of these gamers. They'll all get together and get a house, and they live together in the same house, and they all stream from that house and do games together. They go on each other's streams. They support, the other people's streams independently, and that's kind of like what Tim has going on. But so I learned a lot from him as far as how to edit video, get a team going to edit video and pump out content. And we kind of have a similar idea, but it's based around this anti-gravity research stuff again. And I think that would be there's a lot of TV shows and people with big money that would invest in something like this, a stream house that we could run for like the MTV's The Real World, but for anti-gravity, or like, and I was even thinking, we were running ideas just in a brainstorming session. We could make this like Survivor and have 12 people on the island, and one gets voted off every month, where we bring a new guy on to try to add to the team.
We kind of have the lab house already set up. It's a 5-bedroom house, literally 5-minute walk from the lab. And I'm actually busy building some IKEA furniture that we got, that everyone could sleep on it, something other than air mattresses.
So now we need to wire that place up with like video cameras. We gotta have our privacy, but I don't know. I got some ideas, like you get the ideas flowing, man. That would be awesome. Keep going with that. Okay, Claymore gave me a super chat. Imagine an empty inverted spool of thread. When the full end falls out, the thread is voltage. Stick a rope in and it kinks and flops out. Ultra high amperage, very low voltage. Yeah, it's similar to that idea, I guess. You could use the string as an analogy and like the windings of the wires in a way, pumping up the voltage. But it's all about the ratios is really what it is in transformers.
Well, guys, why don't we close things up for this evening? And I can leave the conference going if you want, but
no worries, man. That was good. We killed it, and I don't want to keep it on too much longer. I want people to check out that and again, you can go to American Antigravity events to stay tuned for future APEC conferences and events. falconspace.org and alienscientist.com.
Altpropulsion.com is
and that's our official website now.
All right. I'll type it in the chat right now.
Altpropulsion.com.
Anyone who wants to sign up for the Zoom links should sign up over there. And I think we should change the blue background back to the one it was before.
Yeah. Okay. Let me take a look at that next week. I'm juggling, as you know. I hit the blue and I said, "Oh, I love that. I have to keep it." But if it's driving you nuts, I can change it back.
All right, you can go ahead and wrap it up right there, then, Tim. That's
okay.
Big round of applause.
Big round of applause. Thank you, everyone.